There's a dozen, maybe a couple dozen different ways to skin rotational grazing, but what we're looking for, higher utilization, better rest periods, better performance, and I'm hopeful all that leads to increased profitability, right? We'll see. Hey y'all, I'm Kyle. This is my sheep biz life here in Tennessee. I'm a sheep farmer here at the base of the Cumberland Plateau, and I'd like to get into how and why I move my sheep around here on my farm as opposed to keeping them in a single paddock. Tell you what's changed, the benefits I've seen from that process, and some of the challenges, and really emphasize why it is that I think I need to move them at least twice a week in my overall aim of profitability over the next 2 years. Let's get into the details. So when we first started, we were rotating these guys once a week on average. Maybe a little more casual, you might say, it's the polite way to put it. But weekly moves on average, certainly sometimes a couple days more, maybe a couple days less if I saw the forage was diminished. But I'll be honest, sometimes there was spots chewed down to nothing, and there was other parts of that same paddock that were seemingly untouched, and I really couldn't explain that. But sheep, bless them, I think are just creatures of habit. They're going to consume as a group like you see them doing here now. And they're going to take the candy out of that paddock first. And they're going to leave that broccoli for later. And that's why we want to move them on a little tighter paddocks and more often, every 3 or 4 days. We're going to expedite the improvement to our pastures doing that. But it's not just about grass regrowth either in pasture management. It's also about parasite management. That parasite cycle takes about 4 or 5 days, up to a week, depending on your conditions. But if you can get them off there in 3 or 4 days, you can beat that cycle in most contexts. So if you get them out of there in 3 or 4 days, you're going to stay ahead of when that parasite kind of regenerates in the grass and gets reconsumed by your flock. And so that's our goal, is to get them out of there before that parasite takes hold. And also getting them off their waste within 3 or 4 days is going to help with their hoof care. A little less hoof care doesn't break my heart. A lot less labor involved if they can keep healthier on drier ground. And visiting with them twice a week benefits me, benefits them, helps me do my shepherdly duties, being out here with them a couple times a week as opposed to just once a week. So that's some of the motivations for moving them every 3 or 4 days a week. But it's about their productivity, right? It's about keeping them the most productive I can get them. And as you can see from the aerial shots here, you can likely see very well where we've been for the last few rotations. And we've spent about 3 or 4 days on each one of these spots. And you can see some of it's grown back. Mostly it's still trampled for the most part. It's only been a few days, right? So each one of these pastures is progressively 3 to 4 days since they've been on it. And you can see the one that just got on a couple days ago is still lush with pasture. And the next one, you can see where they haven't been yet and where they're headed to as we move them across our front pasture here. It's time to move, girls, boys. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but you can definitely see this pasture here is kind of yellowed, trampled, covered in waste, just in the 3 days they've been going at it. Versus the pasture they're about to go on to is just about as bright a green as you can get. Still got the spring flush grasses and clover all in it. Just looks incredibly better in that short amount of time. Now they're still forage where they're at, but it's not the prime forage. And it's got a lot of waste on it. It's trampled down a lot, so it's not very desirable. And so their performance is going to slow. It's not like they can't survive on it, but their performance, they're going to work harder for the better forage, and the harder they work, the less productive they are. And the harder they have to work. That's why we have shade out here too. The shade we've employed here also helps with their productivity. The hotter they are, the less productive they are. so we can get them some shade, some relief during the peak of the day. They're not going to burn as many calories doing what they do. Well, we don't want to sit them on a couch. Where we can, we want to bump up that production. When my goal is profitability, not just survivability. I want them to be very productive. So, moving them faster, employing some shade in the areas of my farm where they don't have trees for shade, which isn't very many, but the few that I have, they do end up spending a week or 2 or 3 on those areas. And I want to give them some shade. So let's get these guys moved. You can tell they're already kind of crowding around, which is a good indication too that they also agree it's time to move, the ones that know the routine. If they had plenty of lush forage out there, they wouldn't be gathering around the fence while I'm doing this. They would be completely ignoring me. But they're not, which is a telltale sign that they want to move on too. They see this lush pasture over here waiting on them, and they're excited to get on it. Like I said, I'm trying to get this done before the heat of the day. Just not sure I achieved it. Sometimes all plans don't come together perfectly. Just gotta push through. Instead of a late breakfast, I think I'm gonna be getting a nice cool lunch in the house after all these chores are done. I was bragging about how quiet well, not always, but I have bragged about on occasion how quiet my sheep are. Other than when they've lambed, they'll get a little noisy for a few weeks as the ewes and lambs try to keep track of each other. But they'll get a little talkative and when they get excited, and they're excited to move right now. So we're putting them on smaller paddocks than we used to as well. So we're moving them again. As for those of you who haven't checked in here before, we went from once a week moves to twice a week moves. We're moving them every 3 to 4 days, typically every 3 days, but definitely on average twice a week on tighter paddocks. There's a dozen, maybe a couple dozen different ways to skin rotational grazing, but what we're looking for, higher utilization, better rest periods, better performance, and I'm hopeful all that leads to increased profitability, right? We'll see, and I'll keep you updated. But that's the idea, keep them a little more productive, continue to improve my pastures at maybe even a faster rate than they've already done over the past 5 years. That's the kind of the logic of it. There's a bunch of different names for it that I don't care to use, but lots of people think naming things gives them the credit for it. But people have been moving animals around for thousands of years. And now we've invented 20 or 30 names for what kind of rotating we're doing. But I'm just trying to get them to utilize the majority of my pasture the best they can while they're there. And then before the parasites get to do their thing, get them off that patch of grass and onto a new fresh piece of forage free of parasites. And as I do that, I hope they stay a little more productive than they would otherwise. And my pastures continue to improve. That's what we're looking for.
So here's the setup, guys. I've got about 35 acres, about 30 of which I can graze. And I don't have much of it permanently fenced yet. I do have a 7-acre pasture I've managed to fence with some friends' help. And we're working on the rest. But we graze the farm about a ½ acre at a time. I use these electric fence nets you see here, and we slice up the pasture as we need to. I put in a new paddock, and I open the old one. And to be honest, the sheep do most of the rest. I swear they've got a sixth sense sometimes for fresh grass, and they just know the routine, so they know when I'm opening up that fence that it's time to move. As you can see here, that didn't take any coercion. As soon as I opened it, they're bouncing through. Now those lambs haven't quite figured out the routine, but they're getting there. And obviously water moves with them. I use portable troughs, and I move along their mineral as well. I'm no expert at reading the grass to tell you when to rotate, or to tell me when to rotate, but I can tell when it's been eaten and beaten down. And if it's been eaten or beaten down too fast, sometimes we step up our schedule. Sometimes I think we're going to go 3 or 4 days and we only go 2. But if the paddock's lush and the sheep are out there sunbathing, chewing their cud, they're not talking to me when I show up, they're not paying me any attention, I think they're doing all right. Some might call it by names of intensive grazing or managed grazing or whatever they call it, but really it's more for me like a mildly organized shuffling across my pastures. I mean, look at the grass difference here from where they've been to where they're headed. It's beautiful. Call it what you want. We move them multiple times a week onto this kind of grass, and they seem very happy. I see differences in my pastures. I see differences in my sheep. I've seen a lot better gains in my lambs this year, so we're really excited about that and looking forward to continue that.
Good boy. Hold on. All right, all the heavy lifting's done. So now I can close the fence. That's how I do it. Bring the cart inside the pasture. Took me a minute to figure that out. I'm not bright as most of y'all. And that way, I can move my heavy lifting stuff through and just put the cart in the old pasture. And then as I take that down, I can get it out. I used to bring it in here and then have to worry, how do I get this cart out of the pasture without letting everybody out? But now I do it like this. That's how we live and learn. That's how I learn anyway. By messing it up.
Now don't get me wrong, it's not all sunshine and clover, right? Some paddocks just don't line up with where I need to move or where I'd like to move, so organizing where to put fencing and where to put the openings can sometimes prove a little more challenging than others, but nothing that should be too intimidating. You just got to figure it out. It's certainly not all perfect squares or rectangles though, like I imagined before I started. Sometimes life gets in the way too. Bad weather, fencing breaks, our family obligations or schedule, and moves just get pushed up or delayed for lots of those reasons too. Look, my guardian dogs aren't always cooperative. They'll knock over water and chew on everything or find tiny holes in the fence like they're trained detectives, sometimes I think. So I have to keep my newer pup, for instance, out of the lambs for the moment, and that's been a challenge for the last couple of months. But we work through all those things.
I think I've covered several times over what I believe the benefits of my rotational system so far, what it's done for my pastures, my property, my farm, and for my animals. And it doesn't take long. You see benefits, I think, at least in my experience, pretty quickly. Certainly within a season, if not quicker than that even. So give it a shot. I think you'll see some benefits up from it. As far as the challenges, I think they're far outweighed by the benefits. But certainly there's a little more work involved than just putting them out on a set pasture. Putting up and taking down those electric fence nets takes some effort. But I would say it's not a significant effort, I don't think. Some people complain about the hassle of those nets, but I haven't found them extraordinarily burdensome. They're not terribly heavy. They're not terribly hard to put in the ground. But where we are here in Tennessee, I just haven't found them terribly difficult to use. They do get grounded out with grass and brush and so forth. I try to keep that off them. Oftentimes I'll mow even before I put the net in place. But the truth is these animals don't require a strong shock to teach them the lesson that needs to be taught for that psychological barrier. And so I've touched it many times, unfortunately. I don't think I'm quite as well grounded as the livestock, so I'm probably not getting hit with the full strength of that solar charger. But I still have been hit with it several times. It's uncomfortable, and so it's uncomfortable. It's enough to keep my guardian dogs in. It's enough to keep the sheep in. It's enough to keep most of the predators out. And so that's sufficient to move my animals around using that net in. So there are some challenges presented. It's really just a little extra work. But if you can manage that, don't let the netting intimidate you. It's rather easy to use and rather easy to set up. And I think rather inexpensive related to traditional fence. And so if you check that out, I think you'll find, again, the benefits outweigh the challenges of using the net. That's been my experience so far. I've been using it for 5 years. I have some of my original nets, so they last a good long while. I got most all of them from Premier One, and they have good quality nets. I can't really say a whole lot about them. I've had tears and things that have come apart that were rather easy to repair. But I would say that's it. I'm going on. I'm kind of rambling. Right now what I'm using works for me, and I think most every challenge is outweighed by a benefit. So if you're having challenges, or you think I didn't mention something that is challenging, let me know what you think. I don't think the nets and the chargers are terribly expensive either in comparison to traditional fence, which I had several people quote me traditional fence to subdivide my farm, and it was insanely expensive. I'm not saying that's not fair prices for those fences, but it's very, very expensive. And so this electrical fence has enabled me to put my animals in areas that aren't otherwise fenced. So that's another benefit. And that's probably all I have to say about that. If you have other challenges that maybe I'm not thinking about, or that you saw or you have on your place, share them with the group. I'd really appreciate that. I'm sure they would benefit from it. So rotational grazing isn't just about the trendy name. It's a way that people have been rotating animals and taking care of their land for thousands of years. And it's a way for all of us to be a little more present and productive. And I think this applies even to very small acreage. The sheep get what they need. The pastures are going to thank you for it. You're going to get a whole lot of quiet moments in between where you can just appreciate what you're doing and enjoy it. I know I certainly have. If you're rotating already, if you're moving your animals around, or thinking about it, or curious about it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. How you're doing it, what you think you could do on your property, what you think your limitations are. If you're not rotating around at all, I'd like to hear your thoughts about that too. Everybody's land is a little bit different. Everybody's context is a little bit different. And so I'd love to hear any of your thoughts about it. And the more we share in the comments, the more everybody can enjoy those and learn from those, and the better we're all going to get. So I appreciate that. So lastly, let me just say thank you. For those of you who have enjoyed my videos before and are enjoying this one and hanging out with us, I really appreciate all of you. I'm very grateful for the small community that we're building. I know I've already benefited from it. I hope some of you have as well. If you found this video helpful, or at least mildly entertaining, certainly if you've hung out this long with me, give me a big thumbs up. That'd be very helpful to my efforts here. Let me know I'm on the right path. We have a lot more coming for you to share as I find the time to do so. Certainly our new corral we're going to be building here shortly. And as I wean the lambs and tag them and work them through our handling system, I'd like to show that to you as well, if you haven't seen one in action. I hope you'll join us again here at Our Sheep Biz Life here in Tennessee. And until then, I'll see you then. See you around. See you then. See you maybe. Maybe I'll see you. Hope to see you soon. Later.